Okay, in the last class what we have learned, installing Symfony, setting up and then creating a single controller and rendering something on the controller and setting up the home page. So before we go further, no, let's go some bit of theory. Okay, so what are the things last class we learned about? So if you see here, no, we created a controller and it has like a name, route and name. So it is coming from some component called routing. So let's understand what is routing. So we go here. So in under Symfony documentation, no, you can see some chapter called routing. So basically routing. So one example we can take. Suppose www.google.com. In olden days, no, google.com slash intl slash type slash transliterate something, let's say some URL. So in the olden days, in without using framework, what you will type this now, what you will be having, you will be having simply intl underscore type underscore transliterate dot php. So it is obvious that this is a php file. So it is very easy for a hacker to get into the system. You know that the programming language, what is the programming language behind this. And again, suppose you have like under this many other you are interacting with many other files. So for each URL you will have separate file. Sometimes you will have like common functionalities and some common things to be shared. But you will have, you will create some include files, some files, and you will include once or require once, whatever you use, and you will do that. So in this case now, what frameworks are giving an option now. So it is giving, we can create the URL irrespective of whatever it is, whether it is PHP or Java, JSP, or anything like Ruby on Rails or Python, whatever the programming language, no? So you can have the URL like this. So most of the frameworks are having the component called routing. So routing, what it is means now, whenever you are typing this now, routing is responsible for identifying the URL which is registered in the routing component somewhere, some register, maybe file system or database, whatever it is. So it will find out that specific file, what is called the controller class, and then which action needs to run. So it will find out that. So routing component. So that is the main purpose of routing component. Apart from that, it has got like many other features, like you can control with the host domain name, and you can have many things. Advanced features are there, but we are not going to all of these things. Basically routing means, so whatever you wrote after this domain name, intl type transliterate, this is the path which whenever you are typing after the domain, user will type. So this path will be registered against a controller action. So there are many methods to do this. If you go here now, creating routes, route can be created or configured in YAML file or XML file or using attributes. So you can see that. So you see this. So if you are creating the files in attribute, no, you need to include that one. Where is that folder from src controller, in our case src controller, and the namespace of that thing, and you need to say the type attribute. Suppose you are not doing that now, if you are writing it in YAML file now, you can directly write in the attributes in some file name And attribute, in this case you are giving attributes. In the case of attribute only, some file name you can do that, and inside that file name you can give whatever the route you want. So I'll go through each and every examples. So let's have one example what is given by Symfony. You see that this is block controller, and you are actually importing a class from annotation routing annotation route called this class you are importing, and that class you are using as it's an annotation. You are using it an attribute hash, but the attribute will be written like this on top of everywhere, maybe on top of class or maybe on top of a function, whatever it is. If it is generic to a class, you have to write it on top of class. So route, and then you will give the route attribute, and the first parameter to this class is like path / block, and the second parameter is name, and there are some more parameters like method. So many parameters are there like that. Some options, it is called options. Many options are there. Requirements will be there. Many things are there. So we are not going to much details of that. So the route name, no, as of now the route name block list is not important, but it will be important or essential whenever we are generating the URLs. So by using, we will refer this blog URL in our menu and then in our pages and all, we will refer that. For that we need the routing name. By using the name only we will generate. We will not type like /blog everywhere. What is the problem if you are typing that? No, whenever you wanted to change, you know, you will have to change many places. So instead of that, you can simply change this path. Okay. So the same thing, no, how you can write in the YAML format. So you will have config routes.yaml and then blog_list. The name first you will refer in the YAML format, and you will give the path, and you will mention what is the controller, app controller, blog controller, and the action name. So this is what one YAML, and if you are going for XML, you can do the same way. So the same structure is already available. I am not explaining that. So you will have root ID and path. It's basically ID or name. So here it is in XML, it is ID, okay, and the controller you will mention, and you will give the structure. This is like schema, XML schema you have to refer. Then only the XML will work. And even in the PHP file also you can do that. Config routes.php. You can actually require function routing configurator routes and routes dot add block list block and controller class list. This way also you can write. So these are the 4 type of methods for creating or configuring a route. Okay. So now next thing is like, how can you match some methods, some other options. So some route, some URL should work only for a specific method. For example, methods get and head only will work for show. So show should not accept the post method. So and another method is like put, API post. Okay. Now I will explain about this /id, and you will methods put. So what will happen whenever the HTTP method put is called, that time only this function will work. I mean this route will work. And next thing is like, you can see that here, no, a calibrace and an ID and then another closing calibrace. So what is the use of this? No, suppose sometimes not only the path, in the path you will pass some values. For example, API.post API/post/1. The first post ID you are editing or updating a post. So that time you will mention ID. So and then you will pass integer and ID, and you will do the rest of the code inside. You get the post from the database from ID. So this is what you are doing. Now you can even match expressions. Suppose you wanted to match the expression some condition. Okay, you wanted to do some condition like in if loop, no, your if condition, no, you wanted to do in this. So it is called condition. Inside condition, no, you can give whatever you want, like context.get method in get and head, and at the same time, no, you wanted to mention that earlier you are only matching the method, but you wanted to match some more items like request, headers, get user agent is Firefox. If the request is coming from the Firefox and the method is get and head, now then only this function should work. I mean this controller action should work. So you can do like this also. There are several ways of writing expression. Even you can use the expression language component, which is a very good component available in Symfony, which is an advanced topic. So we'll get into that later. Okay. Now finally, how will you debug the route? So suppose you are getting a problem or you are not sure that that route is available. So for that you have like one command called php bin console debug route, which will list all the available routes available in our application. So you see that now. So you have like preview error, WTT, profiler, home, search. These are related to Symfony debugger. I will explain you what is actually profiler and all these things. But you, whatever the routes we created, now we have created two. Yesterday we created one, and in between for testing some other purpose, now I created one more route. So in our application we have two routes. So you can see the name and what is the method. Any means it will accept any method. Scheme means any scheme. Maybe HTTP scheme means like two schemes are available. One is like HTTP, another one is HTTPS. We can actually restrict the URL only accept HTTPS request. We can do that. So that way we can control the security of our application. So we will not go into further detail. And finally, which path? And again we here host, any host. So host means that it is actually basically matching the domain. Okay, I will tell you what is actually host. So this way we can do that. Suppose you wanted to find out details of a single route, you can copy this now, app home, and put it here. So it will give you all the details of the single route. So you can check what is the property and what is the value of that. Each property and attributes you can get, attributes and value. So one is like a route name. What is the name of the route and what is the path, and path regex. These and all is configurable from attributes or ML or XML or PHP. Okay. So host any, and host regex. Even you can give regex for a host. So regex is a expression language. Again, another type of expression language which is available in most of the programming language. So scheme any, method, requirements. So we'll have a custom requirements. So I will tell you what is the requirements. Okay. Class, which class? Actually basically this is coming from, this route is coming from which class in the sense that which library or service is being used for managing this route. Okay. And then defaults. So you may ask one question, we are only using a routing component. Now sometimes we may override our routing component and we will create our own routing service. So that is why this is important. We need to understand if we overridden on all these things. So defaults in the sense that default values, by default controller, and what is the value of the controller. So it will say the namespace and then
action name.
Class and action name. So compiler pass in the sense that what are the basically compiler pass in the what are the options. So options will be compiler pass. I will tell you what is a compiler pass later. It is an advanced topic. So in the options you will pass all the route options. You can understand like that. So now there is one more command. So you are not sure what is the route name. So what you can do now, suppose you have wanted to get this /send route name, no, you can just simply put this command. Okay, sorry, it is not debug route, it is router dot match. Okay, now you do, if you see that now, if you give that path now, you can get the details of what is the route name and complete details just like before. Now you can get. So these two commands is very much important whenever you are debugging your application, and you can easily find out from which class all these actions are happening and everything. Okay, so that is all about the theoretical part of routes, and then something called route parameters are there. So this I will come to you. This is routing parameters. Now we were discussing about ID. No, the same way we can pass the slug, some string also as a parameter. So these are the parameters we will pass to the controller. So this is integer, and you can even pass object, whatever you want. Okay, we will come to that topic very detailed in soon. Okay, so this is what routing we discussed about routing. So if you wanted to do some more exercise, no, you can create one action. I already created here, so you can create one action for simply printing hello world. You can take it as a challenge, simply printing in hello world to the web page. So you can give for that. What is that now? What I want now, the path will be slash hello world, and the output should be, you can give whatever the name you want. Output should be hello world, and output should be simply hello dude. You can give like this. Okay, simply show a string by creating an controller action, and then you can do output hello dude. So this is your challenge. You can do it yourself. So let's call it challenge 1. Okay, I am just commenting it here. Let's keep it there. Okay, now let us go to our application requirements. So this is the application. We need to create a website displaying blog articles with the ability to comment by registered users. Post is an entity, category is another entity, comment is another table, user is another table, and then I will tell you what is entity and all these things. Before doing this, first thing is like we need a database. We need to configure the database. How can we configure the database? That is very okay. So there is one file called environment.env. It is called environment variables. So inside this you will have all kind of environment variables. You can actually configure this as a file, or you can even configure in the web server. I will tell you in advanced topics and deployment times and all how you can do a Symfony deployment. That time you can configure even the web server configurations, these things. You don't need to configure this as a file also. We'll have a lot of complexities in configuring that way, but from application to application, I mean web server to server, it is different. So now what is this app_dev? It is like environment. What is environment now? Your application will be running on a different environments. Dev means you will have all the developer tools and everything is enabled. So prod means it is your live environment, and another thing is like database URL. You will have the configurations. You will not see all of these configurations every time, because based on your what are the components you installed now, bundles and components you installed, you will have many configurations. So in this case, configuring the database, since we have installed doctrine and doctrine bundle now, we have this configuration. So we are going to use, I already told you, we are going to use like Postgres, and then the database URL. It is a DSN for the database, data source name. So first thing is like what is the source name, and colon and slash. Second thing is like username, and the third thing is like password, and at host, and the port, and finally the database and the server version and the character set. The server version is okay, mandatory, but the character set is not mandatory. If you are not providing that, it will take the default character set in the database engine. Okay, so let's do that. I have already created one thing based on my database engine in another application. What I will do now, I will paste it here. So PostgreSQL and Symfony, password and all these things. And what is the difference now? My DB. So I will DB name, I'll change it. My blog, and all other things are same. Okay. Now I created this, and next thing is like I have to create the database. PHP bin console doctrine database create. So this will create an empty database inside your connected database. In our case, Postgres database. Let's check whether it is created or not. For that, we need to go here. I am using this software, PG Admin. There is some other soft tool called PHP PG Admin, which is just similar to PHP My Admin. You can use that as well. So I am entering my master password. and then I'm going to my server, and let's see my databases. I have lot of database. So this is the database we created, my blog, and let's check whether it has got any tables. So it doesn't have any tables. Okay, so next thing is like we need to create tables. How can we create the tables? The first thing is like we will create the post table. So for that the command is like php bin console make entity. So the name of the entity is post. Okay, now you see that two files are created. One file is like entity and another file is called entity repository. Let's check that. So if you go here in the entity folder, you can see a new file created, a brand new file. The name is class post, and which is linked repository class, post repository class. And let's check that as well. If you go here, so you can see that some many big things are created. So I will tell you what are all these things later. So let's go further. So we need to add like entity generated. Now let's add some fields. So always you should read this properly and do it according to the screen instructions. Don't simply enter. If you do that, now sometimes you will get into a problem. Read everything properly and do that. Okay, don't follow the default always. So the first thing is we have title, content, posted at, is published, and let's create this first. So now first thing is like title. So always the column names should be in the camel case. So title, and default is string, and obviously it is a string, and then maximum length is 255, and then it is not nullable. Nullable in the sense that database whether that column should have a value or not, it's mandatory or not. So in our case, no. And then we will create content. So content, which is not a content, is not a string, so it is a big text now. So let's check what are other fields is available. For that we can simply enter question mark, type question mark and enter. So you can see that a lot of fields are available: string, text, integer, boolean, float, relation, many to one, one to many, array, JSON, and all these things are available. In our case we need text only. So again the content is not nullable, we should have some content. So let's make it now. So next thing is like posted at. So if you type posted at now, you see that automatically it is giving you date time immutable instead of string. So why it is now? This is a timestamp. So it is our console is an intelligent to identify. It is written like that. You can say a small sense of artificial intelligence and all in this thing. So it is written like that, and automatically it is guessing the type. So date time immutable, that is thing. And if you wanted to change it, you can change it. So it is not nullable. And then next thing is like is published, and here also you can see one magic. So it's automatically guessed boolean, because if you give this way your value, no, it will identify and it will find it. Its type is like this. So we are going to save true or false here, and again it is not null. Okay, and then finally we have something called category. For that we need category table to be created. So here onwards we will not call table, we will say entity. So in Symfony, a reference to the table, a class referring to the table is record is called entity, and class referring to the repository, table is repository. Okay, now let's go and create the category. So same command, php bin console make entity, and then we create category, and then we create name command, I mean the column name, and then it is string 255, and it is not nullable. And then finally we need one more property called is enabled. You see it is automatically just boolean and it is not nullable. Okay, we created this now. And then next thing is like we missed this category. I already told you it is an n-to-one, that is many to one relationship. That means every category will have multiple posts, but every post will link to one category only. So let's go here and then once again enter the command make entity. And here one thing I forgot to tell you, if you type the name of the existing entity and if you are adding a new property, it will append to that. Okay, so once again post, and then we are naming it category, that relationship I told you, the column name we are giving. And then okay, so let's check, let's give relation. So we are going to configure a relation. So and which class should this entity to be related? So in our case it is category, and it is asking us which type of relationship: many to one, one to many, many to many, one to one. There are 4 types. So if you are many to one now, if you are considering many to one, that means each post relate to one category. That means every post is having one category. If you are taking one record, it is related to one foreign record. So in this case, one post will have one category. That is called many to one. One to many means every post can have many category objects, but one category can has only one post. That is called one to many, opposite of many to one. So many to many means each post can relate to more than one category, and then in vice versa, like category also can have more than one post. So one to one means every post will relate to one category and every category will relate to one post. So this is what 4 types of relationship. So in our case it is many to one, and it is asking post.category to be allowed to be null. No, in our case every post should have a category. And then it is asking another question: do you want to add a new property to category so that you can access or update post object from it? Example, you can call, so suppose you are having an object of category. If you are simply called get post, you will get all of the post belongs to that category. Do you want that feature? It is asking. In our case we want, so default we can give yes. And then it is asking, if that is the case, now what is the name of the property you wanted to give? You can modify this, but default you can give like this. So next thing is like, do you want to automatically delete orphaned post objects whenever you are deleting the category? So master is category. If whenever you are creating the category, do you want to delete? That is called orphan deletion. True or false? Okay. So this is what the creation of a post and category, we created it. And now let's create other entities also. Before going to other entities, no, let's create some data towards this post and category. Okay, how can you create some dummy data for testing purposes? For that we need to use some tool called data fixtures. PHP bin console. You don't need to do this first thing. Already some data fixtures will be available here if we have already installed the data fixtures. I think we haven't installed fixtures, so we have to install one component called ORM fixtures. So you can simply give composer require. Okay, here only we are using that composer command. So if you wanted a new component, now you need to give require command, and you need to give the name of that thing. Okay, I'm just giving doctrine fix, something like that. So it will say there is no such kind of package. So you can instead of that, they are giving these are the available package. So in this case, our name of that package is like doctrine doctrine fixtures bundle or something like that. The shortcut is there, ORM fixtures. You can install. So it will automatically install doctrine data fixtures and doctrine fixtures bundle. Two components it will install. Now if you see, in our SRC folder, you can see something called app fixtures. Here itself one example it is giving product, new product, and manager persist. Object manager is coming here. By using object manager we can persist, and from manager you can flush it. So what you can do now, you can under this now you can just simply clear it off, and what we want a category to be created. So here one thing is there. There are some faker tools available, but I am not showing you what are the faker tools. You can create the fake data by using the faker tools, but in our case we will use by using a symbol for loop logic. Okay, so we want 10 category. Okay, so category count. Category count 10, and then we want for each category 10 post count 10. So let's initialize those variables. So and then we will create one for loop. I is equal to 0. I don't have to teach you all these things and all, so you guys already knows that. And then I less than basically category count, and then I plus plus. I'm just giving you once again, I'm telling you, if you put plus plus I, it will behave in a different way. Only I plus plus you have to use. Okay, and then first thing is like you need to create the category object. So new category. So if you do like this now, automatically that namespace will be imported here. So otherwise you will have to do manually if you are using some other ID. And then okay, category. So before going to here now, let's go to the entity. So we created two entities now, we don't know what happened. So let's go to the category. You see that one private property int ID and name and is enabled. These two things we have already given. ID is the primary key, which is a default thing for any entity. So which will be taking auto incremented thing whenever you are creating, and even you can modify the column name and all if you want, but it is better to keep ID because that is universal. And then you have another property called post, which is came from inverse side of the relationship, and you have a constructor, and you have one getter method. This is called getter method, and you have setter method. In ID we don't need to set the ID. It will be set by doctrine itself automatically. Okay, I am telling the term doctrine always. Now what is doctrine? Which is another framework, another component used for another PHP component used for purposes managing database operations. I mean fetching the data from it's not simply fetching that. So basically doctrine ORM and doctrine abstraction, database abstraction DBAL, there are two packages available. So one is like focused on database storage and object mapping. So the one is focused on abstraction layer, connection for connecting the database and all these things. And the second thing is like object relation mapper. So that means it will map the table record to an object or table to a repository. So collection of repository means basically collection of records. So these activities, for these activities we are using this library. This is also another PHP package. It has got many other sub level things, many other sub libraries. You can go through the documentation. it has got annotation, cache, coding standard, all many things are there. So you can go through that later. So you can read it. I'm closing this. So you have got a get and set methods. These are the PHP magic methods, you know that already. So in our case now, suppose we wanted to add a category name now, we can just simply give set name and we will give a name to that. So in our case, each category need a separate name. So for that, what we will do now, we will give category and hyphen and then hyphen we will give I. Okay.
Yes.
And then second thing is like next property, what is enabled, which is always true. We want all category to be
True.
so we created the category. Next thing is like we need to
Set post.
we need to create the post. For that we need 10 posts in each category.
Yes.
So let's do one thing. We will call manager persist category. Okay.
Okay.
So next thing is like what it will do now, whatever the value we created now, it will keep it ready as an SQL statement. It will not run.
Yes.
So next thing is like post we need to create. For that we need to write another for loop. I'll copy paste and I'll make it J.
Okay.
J and J++. And inside this I will create one post. So in the post also we will have getter and setter methods, whatever I told, related to our config, whatever the entity annotations and entity configurations we given, based on that it will come. Okay, post set title. So I will say my blog post and then I'll give
J.
I plus J. Let's give like that. So you'll get some different number. Okay. Let's close this. And the next thing is like we need to set content. So some blah content. Okay. Third thing is like we need set posted at.
Posted.
Before that we need to do category.
Category.
So whatever the category we created here now, same category. Okay. And then we need post set posted at, and for this it is a date time immutable, so we need to give date time immutable and then now. So that means at the current time it will take. Okay. And then finally we need is published and we can give false. As of now we can give false. Okay. And then finally here also we need to call manager persist. It is post. Okay. So we are doing this and we are running this. Okay, here it is, we forgot to do that. It is post count, and let's say that every post will have 20, every category will have 20 posts. Okay. So, and how can we get these details in our DB? Before that, do we have any table in our DB? Nothing is there. We haven't done anything. So we forgot to create the DB. So there are two ways of creating the DB. You can simply run one command called php bin console doctrine schema create. It will automatically create all the table. So it is fair good to run right now because we don't have anything. But if you do like this now, what is the problem? All the tables will be replaced and it will be created once again. So this is not recommended to do. So instead of that, we can run another command called make migration. What it will do now, it will create a file with a version and some timestamp and all these things. If you go in this folder, you can see something and it is saying like I'm creating so and so commands, it will say SQL commands. So either you can copy and run this command in the database, or you can do as this way how it is recommending. PHP bin console doctrine migrations migrate. So you don't need to by heart these commands and all, it will be automatically showing you in the terminal. Okay, and it is asking you about to execute the migration database my block that could result in schema changes and data loss. So you shouldn't be running blindly this thing in the production. In the development you can do that. So it is done. Now let's check. Let's simply refresh, and you see you have got category and messenger messages post docker migration. I'll tell you what does this migrations no. So if you go to view and edit all rows, you can see one table there. So this table is used for managing the database changes. So by using this migration, either you can go back to the previous thing or you can upgrade to the next thing. So that is the use of the migration. So you don't need to understand much more things about migration. So there is no much more need of that thing. So that's why I'm not explaining that thing here. So you can run this command to this command. Two of these commands will help you to manage the migration. Okay. So that is one thing. So now we created that. So now we created the fixtures. So let's get this data in our database. So for that another command is there, php bin console doctrine fixtures load. So this time it will ask you database will be purged. So do you want to continue? So if you give yes no, what it will do no, it will add all these things. Let's check. Maybe some problem, I am not sure. We will have some problem. Let's check. Yeah, it has created every 10. Luckily no problems. 10 records. It's a category. And if you go to post now, it has created, see, too many records, 200 records, 10 into 20. So 200 records it has created. You see, 1415 like that it's created. Okay. So this way you can create the fixtures. Now if fixtures is ready, now let's go and create one more controller for my blog list. So my blog data is ready, category is ready, and then post also ready. Okay. So PHP, you know that already the command now. So last class I explained it. PHP bin console make controller. So I will call it block controller. Okay, now you can see that one controller has been created here, blog app block. Okay.
Yes.
Now let's check that how it is showing in our application. So for that we have to go to our application and /blog. So still our application is running. If it is not running, you need to run the command Symfony serve
-d
and then Symfony serve -d command you can run with. If you are not giving -d, it will show you the logs. Okay, you can't close that command. It will not go background. Okay, so this is the default thing it is created. Now okay, now what are the things we want? We want list of our posts. Okay.
post.
Okay, how can we get that post? So if you go to post repository now, you can see many find one by find or some magic methods available inside this. So it will give you the find will give you, if you are giving an ID, it will give you the specific record. Find one by will give you by using the criteria some specific records. Find all will give you all the things. Find by will give you based on some criteria. So in our case, what we want, we want
All data.
we have to post repository, we have to pass it here. It is called dependency injection, post repository. So it is automatically imported, so you have to import it if it is not happening automatically. And post repository, and what is the method we have to call? Find all. So you will give all the things. Okay, okay, semicolon is not required. So let's go to this template. So under templates, block index, and we don't need all of these stuffs, so we can use this, the same template for. So in the template we have like tweak, many things are there. You can go and learn that documentation. Last time I told you, you can go to tweak.symfony.com. You try to learn all the available options inside this. I am not taking a special class for this. So if you go to learn more, you can understand introduction, installation, everything is there. Okay, so tags and filters and everything is there. You can learn that. So we need a for loop to render our blog items. Okay, for post in posts. So we need to, this is the structure of the for loop, and then int for. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so let's see what is happening. So I think it will give a problem. Okay, so controller name is not there. So here, instead of controller name, no, we can express post.name, not name, title. Okay, and then here we can give the content, post dot content. We don't need this thing. Now let's check. If you see here, it's many posts, 200 posts it is showing here. So this way we can create a controller and we can pass some data to controller. You can fetch the data from the repository. I mean, it is from database. So we can do that, and we can easily pass that to this thing. So, and again in the next class we will customize this in a different way. We don't need to show every post in a single page. We need to show only 10 posts per page, and again we don't need to show unpublished post. We need to show only published ones. Okay, in the next class we will do that. So the main thing is, like I am explaining once again, doctrine associations, that is called relation. Okay, I am just showing you this theory of this thing. So association mapping, it is called association mapping. So you have many to one, different types of many to one will be there. One is many to one unidirectional. That means in your entity, only in the awning side, wherever you are configuring the relationship, wherever the foreign key value will get stored. So that is called awning side. In the awning side, only from the awning side only you will be able to get the data. There won't be any reference to the inverse side. So that is called unidirectional. So, and one-to-one unidirectional, the same thing applicable to that. One-to-one bidirectional. So one-to-one bidirectional means you will have in the both sides referring to that specific property, but you will have only in the owning side the data will get saved, but in the doctrine you will have in the both side, but in the owning side only data will save. Okay, so that is one thing. And one-to-one self-referencing, sometimes you may have to, okay, one example is like, in our yesterday I was showing some template. In the template now we will have a main category, and under main category we will have some subcategories for the post. So for example, technology you can take, and under technology you will have PHP, JavaScript, like that you will have many things. So what you can do now, so that time you can use self-referencing. The same table will refers to itself.
Okay.
So it is parent-child relationship. I will explain you that thing in practical in the next classes. And one-to-many bidirectional. One-to-many bidirectional in the sense that in the owning side we will have the data will be saved, but in the inverse side we will have only a reference to that specific thing. And then one-to-many unidirectional with join table. Okay, one-to-many unidirectional with join table in the sense that by default the joining columns and tables will be automatically created by doctrine based on the standard structure. Suppose you wanted to create one more table to storing this, that you can give. So how you can give now? Join table, you can give the table name, join column and inverse join column. All these things you can configure by using attributes. And one-to-many self-referencing, same thing. And many-to-many unidirectional. So many-to-many unidirectional in the sense that we will have only in the owning side. So in the many-to-many, you will automatically system will create a join table. If you wanted to modify that now, you can give join table and join column like this.
Okay.
So again I will explain this properly in the next classes. So many-to-many bidirectional, that means you will have both owning side and inverse side. So what is the benefit of bidirectional now? You don't have to query the database. It will automatically query it and fetch for you. So this is very much important. You need to understand very thoroughly this thing. So the relationship is very much important for RDBMS. So relational database management system. But even if you don't have okay, I will tell you, if you wanted to use a relationship within the database, you will have to use InnoDB. So if you don't want to use within the database, in MySQL you will have to use the engine, database engine, InnoDB. And in if you don't want to use that table referencing inside the database, MySM is the best thing. So if it is your application is very big and it is having millions of things it's better to use MySM. So but you need to have an index, proper indexing, then only you will be able to get the data. Okay, so I am closing for this day. So it is already 12:13 a.m. So tomorrow we will have one detailed class. Okay.